Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to get into a really powerful story. It's all about faith, about provision, and what happens when you forget where all that good stuff actually comes from. Trust me, it's one of those stories that really sticks with you.
All right, so let's jump right in. The whole story we're about to unpack really hinges on this one powerful idea from the book of John. You got to think of it like this: a branch connected to a vine. If you can keep that picture in your head, everything else is going to make perfect sense.
So, our story kicks off with this pastor. He's just been made the head of his church, the general overseer, and he makes this huge decision. He stands up and announces he's going to feed everyone at their big annual conventions for free. I mean, talk about a massive undertaking built on nothing but pure faith.
And he wasn't vague about it either. He promised 2 full meals a day. He was thinking about that story of God feeding the prophet Elijah, right? But here's the craziest part. The pastor had no job, no personal income to make this happen. It was just a complete, total leap of faith.
Okay, so you make a promise like that. How in the world do you pull it off? Well, someone from the community has to step up, right? And that's exactly what happened. A young baker in the church said, "I'll do it." He volunteered to supply all the bread for breakfast, every single day.
And for years, this system just worked. It was flawless. The pastor made the promise, the baker delivered the bread. It was this amazing, reliable partnership. The congregation got fed just like he said they would. Everything was going great.
But you know how these things go. One year, everything changed. A conflict pops up. The baker gets offended by one of the pastor's sermons. We don't know exactly what was said, but whatever it was, it did not sit right with him. And this private feeling of being offended, it was about to have some very, very public consequences. So because he was offended, the baker makes a big decision. He's just going to stop the bread. That's it. But here's the key. He doesn't tell a soul. He decides to do this silent protest, which of course is about to create this huge crisis that nobody, especially the pastor, sees coming.
So just try to picture this scene, okay? The whole congregation is there for the morning session. They're singing, they're praising, and they're waiting for breakfast. But the morning just keeps dragging on. 10 a.m. rolls around, then 11 a.m., and still no bread. You've got an entire convention full of people just waiting and getting hungry. Finally, things come to a head. Around noon, the pastor sends for the baker. He's probably thinking, there must be a problem with the trucks or something. He asks him straight up, did the vehicles break down? And the baker's reply is just so simple, so direct, and absolutely devastating. He just says, no, I am not bringing bread anymore. So, bam, just like that, no bread. The pastor and his wife had to think fast. They pooled all their own personal money, everything they had, just to buy bread for that day's meal. And somehow they scrambled, they overcame the crisis, and they managed to get through the rest of the convention. But the story doesn't end there. Not even close. We fast forward a bunch of years, and one morning, super early, the pastor wakes up, and who does he find standing in front of his house? The very same baker. The final chapter of this whole drama is about to play out.
And this is where the lesson just smacks you in the face. The baker, the guy who was once so rich he owned at least 14 cars, is standing there because he has a flat tire and he can't even afford a spare. I mean, the difference between who he was then and who he is now, you couldn't make it up. It's just so stark.
And the baker's story, it brings us right back to that core idea we started with. See, he got it twisted. He started to think the whole operation depended on him. He confused being the channel with being the source. He completely forgot that core principle. Without the vine, the branch can't do a thing. This isn't just some random story about one guy. It's the perfect example of a much bigger teaching, something you find in the book of Matthew. It takes this same exact lesson and blows it up to a cosmic scale. So let's break this down real quick. Point 1 is all about perspective. Don't worry about temporary problems. Fear the one with the real power. Then, the next 2 points are about your value. You're worth more than a bunch of sparrows, and you are known so well that even the hairs on your head are counted. And it all leads to this final call to action. You have to publicly acknowledge where your help comes from. Every single one of these ideas is the exact opposite of the baker's mindset, right? That self-important attitude he had.
And when you think about it that way, it totally reframes the baker's mistake, doesn't it? His little personal problem wasn't just about him and the pastor. No, it was a perfect, tiny example of a much, much bigger mistake. Taking the one who is in control of the entire universe for granted.
Okay, so we've heard the whole story, we've seen the pretty dramatic consequences, we've tied it all back to a deeper teaching. So what's the bottom line? What's the one big thing we're supposed to take away from all this?
And here it is, plain and simple. It's a crystal clear warning. Don't make the same mistake that baker made. Don't you ever take your source for granted. Because without him, you are nothing. And that brings this whole thing right back to you and me. This story isn't just about a pastor and a baker from a long time ago. It leaves us with this really personal, kind of provocative question that we have to ask ourselves. What's one small thing you can do to honor your source today?